Thank you very much, and don't forget, this video was made possible by my patrons on Patreon. Want to support me? The link is on the screen. Sincerely yours, VisualPony, and enjoy this audiobook. The Lunar Cypher, Chapter 9, Playing Games. Lunch was wonderful. Luna was playful and charming, and the food was incredible. There were appetizers of cheese and apples cut into the shape of lotus blossoms and swans on a blue crystal plate that made them look as if they were floating on water. The maitre d' himself came to the table to dress and toss the salad, which was amazingly good. About halfway through that course, Luna lifted a forkful of salad and very slowly moved it towards her mouth. Her eyes twinkled with mischief as a bit of salad approached her slowly opening mouth. I knew she was up to something, but I just couldn't figure it out. After a minute of watching her agonizingly slow display, I gave up and asked her, "What exactly are you doing?" Luna grinned and then, in a cheesy Nightmare Moon voice, said, "Wahaha! The bite shall last forever!" It was dumb and goofy, and it completely cracked me up. Then it was kind of hard to stop laughing because the reactions of the ponies around us were even more hilarious. One young mare almost strangled herself trying not to laugh while her parents scowled their disapproval. The rest of the crowd stifled snickers or shifted uncomfortably in their seats, depending on their temperaments. And, best of all, a very proper old stallion behind Luna did one of the most magnificent spit takes I'd ever seen, and there was an angry shout from a pony on the street below who had been on the receiving end of the sparkling cider spray. "Or not," Luna quipped and popped the bite of salad into her mouth. I had to wipe my eyes with my napkin when I finally got control of myself. "You are outrageous, Luna!" Her smug smile was all the reply I got. The main course was a medley of roasted vegetables and mushrooms with crunchy baked oat and rye nuggets, drizzled with a creamy herbal sauce that was absolutely superb. Somehow our conversation got onto the subject of books, and I was surprised to learn that, though Luna enjoyed poetry and history, she hadn't read any modern fiction. "I think you would like some of the better adventure stories. Maybe you should give the Daring Do books a try." Luna nodded thoughtfully. "If you would recommend a good one which you particularly enjoy, I shall make the attempt." "You make it sound like it would be more of a job than an enjoyable pastime. If you really don't want to." "No, I am sure I would enjoy the story." Luna pushed a piece of broccoli around her plate. "But, you see, I am used to such tales and sagas being spoken aloud or chanted to harp song. Cold, unliving words on a page do not seem terribly stirring to me. In the old days, such a thing as a novel was unheard of." "Oh, I see." I should have realized it was something like that. "Well, then maybe I can read a novel to you. Some evening the two of us could settle in together with a good book in front of a nice fire and—" "In such a place, at such a time, I suspect very little reading would occur, my sweet Twilight," Luna said with an absolutely carnivorous grin. The not quite silent murmur from the ponies around us only made my blush deeper. Fortunately, the waiter arrived at that moment with our desserts. We were each served a little chocolate cake surrounded by fresh raspberries and decorated with our own cutie marks and frosting. They were so perfect it was almost a shame to eat them. Almost. When we had savored the last exquisite bite of our desserts, the waiter appeared at our table and asked, "Will there be anything else, your highnesses?" "No, thank you," I replied. "Just a check, please."
"Oh, we would not presume to charge your highnesses. The Hayloft is honored by your patronage."
That made me deeply uncomfortable, but I didn't want to get into a debate with the waiter, so I just smiled and said, "That is so very kind. Thank you, but you will, of course, accept a gratuity for the excellent service of your staff." It wasn't a question, and the waiter knew it. I popped a bag of bits onto the table that I was sure contained nearly double the price of the meals.
Your Highness is most generous.
Rarity would have been proud of me. Luna and I thanked the maitre d', the manager, and especially the chef on the way out. All in all, our first date had been a complete success. "Do you have anything else you need to do today?" I asked Luna. "I need to check on the airships, but that's probably going to be boring. Maybe later." "There is naught of such importance that would keep me from your sight, my sweet Twilight," Luna said. "A shipyard shall seem a pavilion of delights with such a beauty as you for company." Okay. Words are magic. At least the right words seemed to be able to cast a spell on me. I knew it was flattery, of course. I mean, who would give me a second glance with an impossibly stunning mare like Luna at my side? But it still made me ridiculously happy to hear her say such nonsense. It made me want to be beautiful for her. The Canterlot Yards is always a busy place, and that day was no exception. Several airships in various stages of repair or construction rested on their timber ways that jutted out from the mountainside, but they were all dwarfed by the huge white hull of Solar Flare. "Oh my," was all I could think to say when we first caught sight of her. "Indeed," Luna said, and I realized she must be seeing the airship for the first time as well. Solar Flare was both beautiful and scary at the same time. Even the massive amount of gold-leafed Akanso scroll work and Sun in Splendor decoration she carried couldn't disguise the brutal efficiency of her lines or hide the openings of the firing ports along her fighting deck. The sleek surface of her envelope glittered brightly in the sunlight because of a fine mesh of enchanted wire that served as armor for the gas cells within. The fact that it was also beautiful was a mere byproduct of military necessity. As we approached, I could feel the spells woven into her. Powerful and subtle, they had to be the work of Celestia. Aside from Luna and myself, I didn't know of any other ponies who could have even attempted such an intricate interweaving of self-sustaining magic. My grand expedition aboard Evenstar now seemed like the play of a filly with a wooden sword and a garbage can lid by comparison. We were ushered through a gate in the security fence that surrounded Solar Flare and were met by Gudgeon, the chief naval architect of the yard and designer of the massive airship. He glanced briefly at my armor but made no comment.
"Do you like her, Princess?"
Gudgeon asked, seeing that I could hardly tear my eyes away from the bulk that now loomed over us. "She's one of the most terrifying things I've ever seen," I said without thinking. When I realized what I had said, I immediately began to apologize, but one look at Gudgeon's face made it obvious to me that he thought I had paid him the highest possible compliment. "Tell me," I asked, "does the wire mesh stop punctures as well as slashes? The strands are fairly widely spaced for that." Gudgeon beamed at me. Just like any other specialist, he loved to talk about his craft. "The spacing is a balance between protection and weight and magical energy requirements. The mesh won't stop small punctures, but the volume of each cell is so great that they could take a score of hits and you'd scarcely notice the loss of lift. There are small pieces of enchanted cloth inside each cell that will automatically patch up to a few dozen holes in any case." I nodded in appreciation. "That's quite clever." "I'd be happy to give you a tour, Princess," he offered. "And your brother's aboard now, if you'd like to speak with him." "Shining armor? Really?" A surge of happiness went through me at the thought of seeing him again. It was always too long between visits. "Yes, Your Highness. The prince is on the forward fighting deck, I believe." Gudgeon led us aboard and through a cavernous flight deck that could have held Evenstar's entire gondola. We went up 2 decks and emerged into the area where ranks of unicorns were supposed to serve as the airship's main offensive weapons. Shining Armor was talking with a couple of mechanics who were working on some piece of equipment I couldn't immediately identify. "Shining!" I called out to him. "What are you doing here?"
"Twilight,"
he replied as he turned.
"It's good to see." Whoa, look at you.
Getting used to the weight of the stuff, I explained shortly. So, back to why you're here.
I'm getting a short course in airship operations. Thinks I should know if I'm going to command the Unicorn contingent.
Wait, you are going along as captain of the Unicorns?
Yep. Princess Celestia asked me as a personal favor. The Empire is just as much at risk from the dark magic, and I couldn't say no to the big lady, could I?
No, I guess not. Well, it will be nice to have you along.
You don't sound all that glad, Wiley. Shining Armor said with a frown.
Sorry, I'm just kind of overwhelmed at the moment. Of course I'm glad that you'll be coming. I guess I still haven't gotten used to the huge scale of this operation.
You will. You'll do great, Wiley. You always do.
He grinned and clanked a hoof against my shoulder.
Gudgeon giving you the 2-bit tour. Mind if I tag along?
As we left the fighting deck, Luna fell back to walk next to my brother and asked him, "Is a big lady a common nickname for my sister, or is it something personal between the two of you?" Shining seemed flustered for a moment and then said,
"It's sort of a thing within the Royal Guard, Your Highness. A term of affection, really. A very respectful affection. No pony would ever dream of using it to her face, and I apologize for using it in front of you. I was so glad to see my sister, I didn't notice you there in the background."
"I see," Luna said. She walked on for several more paces before asking, "And is there such a term that is used for myself?" I looked back over my shoulder and saw my sweet, noble brother take a deep breath, compose himself, and then deliberately fib to the Princess of the Night.
"Not that I'm aware of, Your Highness."
Compared to Solar Flare, the little cargo airship Gudgeon had acquired for me looked like a child's toy. It was an older style with the hull slung below the envelope, giving an open upper deck between the two. He assured me that she was sound and capable of traveling long distances, and the only reason she had been sent to the Breaker's Yard was that she was too slow to compete with the faster modern vessels. "Hasina!" I read her name off the little carved scrollwork on her stern. "That's odd. Do you know what it means, Gudgeon?"
"I'm afraid not, Your Highness," he replied. "She ran the trade route to Zebrica for a number of years. It may have meant something in their language, or it may just be a strange name. Some ponies have odd notions when it comes to names."
He kept a completely straight face as he said it, so I really couldn't be sure if he was making a little joke at his own expense or not. He assured me that, when Hasina was loaded with the supplies I had ordered, he would have a delivery crew take her to Dodge Junction and stay aboard until the rest of the fleet arrived. I thanked him and signed the paperwork for it all.
"I gotta get back to Solar Flare," Shining Armor said. "But maybe we can get together for dinner tonight? I know Cadence would love to see you."
"Cadence is in town?"
"Yeah, been a while since she visited, so she thought she'd come down for a few days. Do some shopping, you know, stuff like that."
"Right," I said. My brother was just about as bad a liar as Applejack, and I began to suspect something. "When did you guys arrive? Last night?"
"Yeah, we caught the night train down after Princess Celestia asked her,
He faked a cuff into an upraised hoof.
Asked me to command Solar Flare's Unicorn contingent."
"Sure. Dinner sounds good. I'm busy later, but dinner sounds fine."
"Nothing fancy," he said. "Just a little family get-together at the palace."
"I was planning on spending the evening with Luna. You don't mind if she joins us, will you?"
Shining looked stricken for a moment and then said, "No, of course not."
He gave a little bow in Luna's direction and continued with a hopeful smile.
"But wouldn't you rather dine with your sister as usual?"
Luna turned and ran the tip of her wing gently along my jaw. "I prefer better company tonight," she said, looking only at me.
"Oh, okay then,"
Shining said. "Good," I said, shortly. "That's settled. See you tonight at the palace." It seemed that Celestia hadn't entirely given up after all. She was just going to stick Cadence on me as her proxy. My non-time-specific promise to consult my sister-in-law had opened the door to an ambush evidently. Instead of going to the gate, I stomped to the edge of the cliff, cinching down my saddlebags and armor straps as I went. "Let's fly back," I said to Luna. "My legs are going to be sore from all the walking, so I might as well abuse my wings too." Luna said nothing, but she threw herself into the sky at my side. It wasn't until we were halfway around the curve of the Canterhorn to the castle that she spoke, breaking me out of my fuming circle of thoughts. "Twilight?" I glanced in her direction, not much in the mood for a conversation right then, and saw the tip of her horn glowing. "Yes?" "Block this," she said, and threw a pulse of magic at me. I didn't block it. I was too surprised to even begin to pull up a shield spell and just let the little blade of light slap into my side. It stung a bit, even through the armor. "Ow! What the hey?" "Try again," Luna said, ignoring my indignation. I didn't manage to raise a shield for the next one either. I slew around in the air in an instinctive and completely ungraceful attempt to dodge, and the bolt of magic glanced off my corporeal. "Again," was all Luna said. I popped up a shield around myself, and the third blast dissipated harmlessly against it. "Good," Luna said. "Now drop the shield and try again." "If I drop my shield, you're going to sting me again. No thanks." "That's the whole point, Twilight. You can't fire through a shield and it takes energy to maintain. If you can reflexively cast a shield at just the moment you need it, you use less energy and are less restricted for offense."
Oh, a lesson. I liked lessons.
We flew on, passing the castle by as Luna continued to toss low-powered shafts of magic from different distances and at staggering intervals. I got stung a few more times, but I soon caught on to the necessary timing and began blocking Luna's magic with ease. "Excellent, Twilight," Luna complimented me. "You are a very quick—" She fired another blast before she had even finished the sentence. It snapped against my scenery and I caught a whiff of scorched hair. "Don't let your guard down," she chided me. "That was cheating!" "That was winning, Twilight. Deception is more than half of Warcraft. If you don't believe me, just ask my sister. She's an expert. Once around the Canterhorn, shall we? No pausing, no quarter. Are you ready?" "Ready," I replied. "On 3, 1. I popped off a little blast straight at her shoulder. Luna twisted in the air and my shot passed over her back and right through her ethereal mane. She laughed joyfully and immediately fired a return shot. Soon we were soaring and diving and dancing all over the sky while we flung little flashes of magic at each other like two Pegasus fillies having a cloud ball fight. I soon got the rhythm of it, and we added dodges and feints into the game as well as good-natured insults. "Ha!" Luna cried out after I'd done a very neat wing over to avoid one of her shots. "Do you call that flying? I have seen more agile albatrosses." "It's better than my aim," I called back. "I don't know how I keep missing such a big, slow target." "Have I grown fat?" she gasped in mock distress. "'Tis the fault of your luxurious lunch. I perceive you're scheming now, you devious villain. Have at you!" By the time we dropped out of the sky, we were giddy and stumbling with happiness and exhaustion. There was a familiar tightness and twinging in my wings. I was really going to feel it the next day, but it had been so worth it. I'm going to get out of this armor and take a long, hot bath before dinner," I said. Luna glanced at the sky. "I will need to raise the moon in a little while, but until then I think I should aid in your relaxation. A massage while one bathes is considered a sovereign remedy for the stresses of battle. And who better to apply such a remedy than an actual sovereign?" I grinned back at her, trying to sound cool and flippant while striving to conceal the shivers of excitement that ran through me at her words. Even as brief as they were, the bath and massage was amazing. Dinner was disastrous. It was clear that both Shining Armor and Cadence were very uncomfortable when they entered the private dining hall in the palace. Shining wore a brittle, worried smile, and Cadence wasn't smiling at all. Her neutral expression was a soft, gentle upturn of her lips that ponies often mistook for a smile, but I knew her better than that. We made purely mechanical small talk until the appetizers had been served and the attendants had departed. After my bath, I had warned Luna about what I thought was going to be sprung on us at dinner, and after she had calmed down, we decided the best way to approach the situation. I was still nervous. While the rest of us fidgeted and fussed with the food, Luna forked a couple of the stuffed peppers into her mouth and pronounced them delicious. I looked up at her, grateful that at least one of us was relaxed, and that's when she slowed her next bite to a crawl and waggled one eyebrow at me. My joyful laugh seemed to drain all the tension out of my body, and my brother and sister-in-law's bewildered expression only made it better.
That's right,
I thought.
You two just don't have any idea what we share between us. We had the most wonderful time today,
I said, inspired by my own thought.
Luna and I practiced snap shield defense magic all afternoon.
I know, my brother said. You gave the Royal Guard a bit of a scare until they figured out what you two were doing.
I waved away his implied criticism.
I think I've got fairly good at it. In fact, I came up with an interesting variation on the technique. Want to see?
In here?
Shining blinked in disbelief.
I don't think.
I ignored him.
Low power, but as fast as you can,
I said to Luna. She didn't even nod, just snapped off a bright little pulse straight at me. I popped a little shield into existence right into its path. The shield was no larger than a cantaloupe and took far less time and energy to cast than one big enough to enclose my entire body, but it was all that was needed to deflect Luna's shot. The little streak of energy bounced harmlessly off my shield and spattered against the ceiling.
See? The deflections throw some momentum feedback instead of dissipating in heat and light, and the resulting path of the reflection is a bit problematic, but I'm working on a way to guide that energy somehow.
But you've got to be quick and pretty accurate with that cast,
Shining said, suddenly showing an excited interest in the subject.
If your enemy is close, you won't have much time to throw it.
True, close-range shots are still pretty difficult for me to block, but it only took me an afternoon to drill the response into a reflex. All I really need is more practice. As soon as I feel the inceptive pulse, I start my own spell. I don't wait until it forms into an energy strike to react. I'll get quicker and quicker the more I do it.
I've got to try that small shield idea. Maybe I can get some of my guards drilling on it. Most of them can only cast static shields, but...
He was interrupted by Cadence very pointedly clearing her throat. Shining started and his worried look immediately returned.
Twilight,
Cadence began. Oh no, I was not going to sit through the same dreary litany I'd gotten from Celestia. Time for a reflexive defense.
I know why this meeting was arranged, Cadence.
I took a deep breath and launched into my prepared speech.
I am sure Celestia has filled in all the details for you, and I'm fully aware that there are dozens of excellent reasons why our relationship is a bad idea, but the fact remains that we love each other and we make each other happy. I understand that we are royalty and therefore owe service and even sacrifice to the kingdom, but to give up something that means so much to both of us because of a slight possibility of something bad happening a long, long time from now is foolish. Love can't be turned on and off by flipping a switch, and even if we were to bow to Celestia's wishes and break it off, we would still feel what we feel. What quality of service would we render to the ponies of Equestria when we were both miserable and very likely resentful? Don't we deserve some happiness?
There are some things that pass for love that can be turned on and off. You know that, Twilight,
Cadence said softly. I paused for a second in surprise and then said, through clenched teeth,
Cadence, I love you as much as I could possibly love a sister, but I need you to tell me exactly what you mean by that.
Shining lost his polite smile and began to look a bit panicky.
Perhaps you don't see it, Twilight, but every pony else is shocked by the suddenness of this.
Cadence went on, not quite looking at me.
We knew you had become close friends with Luna over the last year or so, but that is something very different from romantic love. You are the most logical-minded pony I know. What would you suspect if this happened to Celestia?
Trust Cadence to use my own pride in my intellect against me.
Luna may have gone about wooing me in the wrong way, but she did not do something as despicable as what you're suggesting.
Then,
Cadence said, looking absolutely miserable.
may I?
She motioned with her head.
You want to...
My mane stirred and lifted, a few sparks of magic snapping against the table and chair.
Please, Twilight.
Luna interrupted, stroking down my mane and grounding away the energy I had raised in my fury.
Let her make her test. I have no fear for my honor in this. Thou wilt deny her and my dear sister at least one doubt about us.
No!
My anger-fueled denial was automatic. Cadence looked at me with concern.
It will put your mind at ease. It will put every pony's mind at ease.
I slammed the hoof down on the table. I didn't want to meekly cooperate after being ambushed, but I could see that Cadence had a very good point. But that didn't mean I had to like it. I turned to Luna.
If I let her do this, will you swear to me that you won't think it means that I don't trust you?
Truly, Twilight.
Luna said, stroking my mane with her magic again.
I will take no insult from it. 'Tis not thee who is mistrustful of me.
She shot a pointed glance at Cadence.
Hey!
Shining Armor leapt to his wife's defense.
Celestia asked her to come here. It's not like she doesn't have a good reason to doubt your honesty.
We all froze. You could have heard Annette thinking about dropping a pin.
Prithee, Prince Consort?
Luna asked in a soft, exceedingly dangerous tone of voice.
What is this reason of which you speak?
My brother's face closed down like a shutter over a shop window. He suddenly became professionally neutral, as they called it in the Royal Guard.
My apologies, Your Highness. I misspoke.
I think you did not. Again, I ask you for this reason.
Luna slowly rose from her place at the table. She didn't raise her voice and her expression was relaxed and neutral, but she exuded menace. Cadence stood up abruptly.
I'm sorry, Twilight. I can see this was a mistake. We should go. It seems that if there are secrets here, 'tis not I who holds them.
Luna said. I stood as well. I stepped to Luna's side and put a wing over her back. I wasn't quite sure if it was a gesture of support or restraint at that point. I looked at my brother.
Shiny?
He wouldn't meet my eyes. He just shook his head.
I'm sorry, Twily. Let's just forget it, okay?
I felt Luna's horn light up with power and her eyes went dark and red.
Prince Shining Armor,
she said, and Elicon magic laced her words.
For the third time, I ask.
Cadence and my brother winked out in a swirl of golden magic. I felt Luna slump under my wing.
Ah, I see,
she said in a long exhalation.
I suppose I must thank my sister. To lay a geese upon a guest would have been a thing ill done.
There was another burst of golden magic and Celestia stood before us.
Indeed it would have been, Luna, and to no purpose. I give you my solemn oath that, as of this moment, I will take no further action to influence you and Twilight in the matter of your romance.
It certainly wasn't a sharing a hug moment. The fact that Celestia had been listening in on our conversation didn't make me happy at all. Things weren't magically fixed and the tension between us didn't instantly disappear. But it was a start. Celestia vanished as abruptly as she had appeared and Luna and I left the castle. It didn't feel right to remain there. We wandered the evening streets of Canterlot, moving as far from the upper city as possible. We suppressed quite a number of ponies, including the owner of a corn fritter on a stick cart where we got our belated dinner. The food was greasy and half-burned and completely wonderful because we were sharing it together. Luna had 5 of them.
I guess an eternal one doesn't need to worry about fattening foods.
I grinned at her, pointedly staring at her narrow, tight waistline. She grinned at me and casually stepped forward, raising one foreleg and arching her back. I went lightheaded for a moment when I realized she was showing off for me.
If you prefer a softer physique,
she said in a low, velvety purr.
I am accomplished at shapeshifting magic and can.
She trailed off and a look of puzzlement crossed her face.
But where did you hear that name, Twilight? It fell out of use long before my banishment.
I was already blushing, and having to tell Luna the details of the muffin dream would undoubtedly have caused me to collapse into a heap of embarrassment, stammering incoherence, so I just simply said,
"The nightmare used it in one of my dreams."
Does she still trouble your sleep, Twilight? Has she asked anything of you? Remember.
No, it's alright. I know better than to trust her. I think she's just teasing me for her own amusement.
Luna looked like she wanted to press me for more details, but after a moment she just nodded and continued walking. But the nice little flirty moment had been lost. Another crime to lay at the hoofs of the wicked Mare of Darkness. We talked of lots of little things as we walked. I told Luna of Private Flicker and she agreed to take him into her service if it was his wish. We spoke of our tastes in art and music and dance. Luna sighed wistfully.
I have not danced in more than 1,000 years, Twilight. I remember it was to the music of a grand celebration in the great hall of the old castle. I danced alone in the courtyard outside, lest I frighten the revelers with my presence. The stars were very beautiful that night.
She said it as a mere statement of fact, but it made my heart hurt for her. I paused and cleared my throat.
I'd love to see you dance sometime.
She chuckled.
'Twill take some time to accomplish, I fear. The music of this age is ill fit to the steps I know, and modern dance seems to be more like the convulsions of one struck upon the head than graceful exercise.
I laughed at that. Then I had an idea.
Let's go down to the river garden. There's plenty of room on the big lawn there. You can show me your favorite dance.
It took a bit of convincing, but Luna finally agreed and we made our way back across the high street and down winding Grassmarket Lane to the park. Luna set some catrails along the shore to thumping out the rhythm against the trunk of an oak, and I called up the music of the reed's spell. When Luna had crafted the tune to her liking, she began to dance. It was a slow and stately dance, a pavan Luna called it, but it was also full of joy and grace. After the first few measures, she made me join her. The steps were actually pretty complex, but they were precise and arranged in a pattern that made a lot of sense to me. After a few run-throughs, I felt more comfortable with it than I'd ever been with the sort of dances I usually attempted at parties. I never knew what I ought to be doing with my hocks and hat there, but this dance had rules. We danced through the whole tune twice and then finished with a full, sweeping bow to each other. We were surprised by the soft rumble of hoofs against the lawn as the small audience we hadn't known we had acquired applauded us. Luna smiled at them, her eyes sparkling in the lantern light, and gave them a small bow of thanks.
"'Tis an age of wonders indeed, Twilight,"
she said softly to me as the little crowd broke up. We went and stood on the high battlements of the city walls near the head of the falls and watched the fireflies wink in and out among the trees. I told Luna how, as a filly, I had thought they were actually teleporting and had said to my mother that if a dumb bug could do it, I certainly was going to learn too. My mother didn't correct me and bought me a book on high-energy vortex theory the next day. Luna kissed me and I felt that amazing sensation of melting into her embrace again. The fear was still there, but I had gotten out of the habit of letting fear stop me from doing what needed to be done.
I love you,
I whispered to Luna, my lips still in contact with hers.
I need you.
She kissed me again and her magic swept through my mane and down my neck, tingling and caressing as it went. I moaned quietly and pressed myself against her. No more timid school-like filly reluctance. No more fear of the unknown or my own ignorance. I kissed Luna slowly and tenderly, and when I was finished, I looked up into her eyes and half whispered, half moaned,
I want you.
My castle? No. It was as much my friend's place as it was mine. I wanted it to be someplace intimate and cozy, someplace I felt comfortable and safe. If my loft above the library still existed, but part of it still did. It was a long ways from Canterlot, but I was filled with a desperate energy and determination.
Come with me,
I said to Luna and stepped over the cliff edge. I dropped alongside the falling water and saw the flow come to a standstill beside me as our relative speed matched them. Then a slight twist of my wings and I was flashing out above the plains and along meanders of the river center, headed for Ponyville. Luna sped past me and then looped up and over me in a graceful barrel roll. I laughed and swavered, weaving in and out of her flight path like a filly playing at being a wonderbolt. The night flight was exhilarating, but it was only the prelude to what I was, by then, aching for. As soon as we got near enough, I summoned up my magic and teleported us the rest of the way. We tumbled into the stateroom aboard Even Star. We landed roughly and we'd completely missed the bed, which was saying something as it took up half the cabin. We scrambled up onto the blankets as we frantically used our mouths and magic on each other. Luna rolled me over and the look of unbridled desire in her eyes as she pressed down on top of me made me so absolutely molten with mindless need. I threw my head back and to the side and pressed my muzzle against the oak paneling, salvaged from my lost home. I breathed in the old sense of books, friends and magic and surrendered myself to the night. Thanks again to the perspicacious academic pony and the ebullient statues. Without them I couldn't have managed to eschew obfuscation in a multiplicity of passages. This is the music for Luna's dance in the garden. Belle qui tient ma vie. Comment time every pony, and of course I will remind you, as always, that you can support me via my Patreon, the link is in the description. Okay, what do I have to say about this chapter though? I was interrupted a few times while recording this, so I have to kinda remember now. Well, first of all, there was, of course, that Twilight had dinner with, not dinner, lunch with Luna, and in the Hayloft Cafe, I think it was named. That was pretty cool, like the bite shall last forever. Awesome. That was cool. That was pretty cool. I mean, imagine that, and that in a high-class restaurant. So apparently Luna is really a tease, a troll, whatever you want to call her, and just enjoys messing with ponies. I kind of like that aspect, really I do. But then again, we have their visit to the dry dock, where they see the solar flare for the first time. And Shining Armor is there, and he arrived the night before. My, what a coincidence, don't you think? I mean, it was pretty obvious that Celestia was pulling some strings there to get Cadence there to, examine Twilight. Not that she, maybe there was a love spell involved or something, and who better to detect something like this than the Princess of Love? So even though Shining didn't say anything, it was pretty obvious. Really pretty obvious. And that's one more thing, I don't think that Celestia will keep her oath that she will not meddle in Twilight and Luna's romantic life anymore. I don't think she will be able to keep that oath because she is a meddling kind of mare. That's just who she is, in my opinion. Always giving a gentle nudge there, or right out a hoof up your face. That's just who she is in my opinion, especially in this story. And of course we had the dinner with Cadence, Shining Armor, Luna, and Twilight. Yeah, that could have gone better. Especially after Shining Armor said, yeah, but it's not like she doesn't have a reason to distrust your honesty. Oh, that went downhill fast. Or, as you could say, that escalated quickly. I think had Celestia not gotten the two of them out of there, this could have gotten pretty ugly. Because even though Luna said that if Cadence performed her test, which she didn't in the end, because, well, Shining Armor slipped his tongue, that even if Cadence performed her test, she wouldn't take this as an insult to her honor. Shining Armor's comment definitely was an insult to her honor, and Luna holds her honor very highly, it seems. Because, I think she was very, very close of actually attacking him. Would Twilight have stood for that? I don't know. I don't think so, but, she certainly would have had problems restraining Luna. Was it the right thing to do for Celestia to get Cadence there to inspect Twilight? I don't know. I personally really am torn on this one. On one hand, I say yes, it was the right thing because Luna has shown herself to be, to do basically everything to get Twilight's affection. Remember that dream she sent Flash Sentry. But on the other hand, I don't think that Luna would go so far as using a love spell. And, so basically Celestia must have known that there was at least a possibility for Luna to take this as an insult. And Luna, you always have to remember, Luna comes from a completely different age. She hasn't been there for 1,000 years. And in this 1,000 years, many things have changed. For Celestia has went through those changes gradually. 1,000 years ago, the princesses were more than they are now, ponies of authority. And they are not that... it's not like that now. Insulting them 1,000 years ago, I imagine, would have been a crime. And that Luna is reacting that way is just showing that she hasn't 100% adapted to modern times, which she states in this chapter when she talks about dancing with Twilight, which was actually a very nice thing, I think. That Luna shared a part of the culture that she was used to, that she basically got ripped out of with Twilight, because that was the culture she knew. But we also get a little backstory on how life was for Luna here. There's only an off-hoof comment here by Luna, that there was a great gathering of ponies in the old castle, and she didn't dare to go inside and dance with them lest she frightens them with her presence. And that alone, if you see Luna here, if you see how she behaves, one moment she is stern. She is, when you go back a few chapters, like in chapter 1 or 2, when the battle happens, she is stern and commands her ponies. She knows what to do. In the next, when she's fooling around with Twilight or, sleeping in the waiting room of a hospital, that's her approachable side, I think. But that she danced outside in the gardens, that's a part. Is personally, in my opinion, in the previous chapter, in one of the previous chapters, Celestia stated that a little neglect caused her to turn into Nightmare Moon. But this little bit of backstory here, that's a little more than a little neglect, Celestia. If I had been in Celestia's horseshoes there, then I would have said, fuck it, My sister celebrates with us. She doesn't have to stay away because some idiots are frightened of her. Yeah, even... Seriously, I mean, how deaf do you have to be? That's not a little neglect, that's pushing her aside. That's, belittling her. So, I understand a little better now why Luna actually turned into Nightmare Moon. And yeah. Let me know what you think about this. I personally think Celestia fucked up there. And has a serious misunderstanding of a little neglect. And yeah. See you next chapter. Sincerely yours, VisualPony.